It's a witch's brew of extremist groups that are trying to exploit this situation on all sides.
That's Attorney General Bill Barr talking about how widespread the network is that's funding Antifa and similar organizations who are suspected of much of the George Floyd violence and riots. We've seen some of those already arrested have been charged with federal crimes. CBS says the DOJ has looked into more than 35 cases and charged more than 45 individuals for alleged attacks on officers, homemade explosives and Molotov cocktails, inciting violence, illegal possession of firearms, burning patrol cars, looting, damaging government property. So our next guest says the Federal Anti-Riot Act should be used against these offenders. He says the federal government can pursue anyone who travels in interstate or foreign commerce or uses any facility of interstate or foreign commerce to incite a riot or to organize, promote, encourage, participate in, or carry on a riot or to commit any act of violence in furtherance of a riot, end quote. Hans von Spakovsky wrote the opinion. He joins us live now. He's a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Governor Scott Walker, Siri Kim, they're back with us as well. Mr. von Spakovsky, thank you for coming on. Can you explain why the Federal Anti-Riot Act, and not local laws, is the best method for pursuing those who perpetrated violence during the riots?
Well, look, if someone is a local resident and they engage in violence, that is something that state and local law enforcement can take care of, and local prosecutors. But the Federal Anti-Riot Act is aimed at individuals who actually are traveling, for example, across state lines to organize violence. And the best example of this is it was successfully used to prosecute 3 white supremacists who traveled from California to Virginia and the University of Virginia in 2017 to organize violence at the protests that were there. And so that statute was used to prosecute them. And the same thing needs to happen here, because it's that kind of instigation and organization that is changing what we all accept as part of our democracy, which is peaceful protest. Instead, turning it into riots where there's violence, looting, and attacks on everything from law enforcement to local business owners.
Yeah, Mr. von Spakovsky, I want to ask you this. The media quick to point out that none of those that are charged by the DOJ were, in fact, Antifa. But as the AG pointed out in the interview, we just saw the charges. They don't require identifying the perpetrator's affiliation.
Right.
So is it possible that those arrested were with Antifa?
Well, certainly it's possible, but I suspect what's going on is that law enforcement intelligence sources are probably still developing the information that the Attorney General cited. Remember, what he said is they've got some evidence of these organizations being involved in this. I think it's probably too soon to go after those organizations because they're probably still investigating them. That doesn't prevent them from charging the individuals who are actually caught in the act of engaging in violence and looting.
All right, we are out of time, guys, and I want to get to our panel, Governor Scott Walker, Siri Kim, in just a bit. But I want to say thank you to Hans von Spakovsky. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.